Gaming MBS episode 338, being recorded Monday, April 19th, 2021. Welcome to Gaming MBS, the tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Glad you're all here. Sean, how are you, man?
I'm well, Brett. How are you?
Not bad. I was doing good until the start of the show and made me feel bad about myself.
I hope I didn't get you into a funk. That was definitely not my point.
No, you didn't. I smoothed my neck funny.
And I also didn't want to hurt you.
No, you didn't. You didn't. Stop hitting me. My buddy Nick looked at me this last Saturday. We had a Warhammer game. And he said, I think I could probably kick your ass right now. I said, yes, Nick, you can. I said, because it would hurt really bad to fight back. He's like, I might have to try that. Why would you do that? He goes, I don't know. Something to do. Like,
well,
God,
he could have been wanting
people.
to do that for years, Brett, and just never has had the opportunity. Well, now the door is open.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it could well be.
Just think it in.
It's not that I haven't probably deserved to get my ass kicked by my friends every once in a while. Like, I probably deserve it. But anyway, apart from that, I had last Friday, Nick kicked off his WEG D6 Star Wars game, West End Games, old school. So we did that. That was kind of fun. He decided he wanted to scrap the Conan game, the 2D20. He really wanted to run Star Wars again. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Do that thing. So we're doing that. That's kind of fun. And Saturday was a great big Warhammer battle. I lost, but it was still fun.
Can you please refer to it with your friends as Warhamster in the future? That would make, just tell them like, hey, Sean is, you can put it on me. Hey, Sean has asked me to refer to this game as Warhamster.
Warhamster.
You know where that's from, don't you, Brett?
Yes, that is a John Kabalik.
It very much is, yes.
Yep. What else was I going to say? Oh, I have, and last week I ran my Greyhawk game. That was fun. First edition of D&D. That was a good time.
So how many sessions are you into the Greyhawk game?
God, I've got to be...
Give or take.
7.
Oh, okay.
7 of them, something like that.
So probably like 50 plus hours, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, it's every other week.
Oh.
From like 7 online. So it's like from 7 to 10.
Oh, okay. So shorter sessions. I thought they were the
Much
weekend.
Sessions.
I thought they were the weekend marathoners.
No. One of the things that's kind of interesting is Nick is like, I don't know if I like the online gaming as much. Wish we'd game all the time in person. And a couple of us who have day jobs and stuff are like, I can't do that, dude. It's much easier to like get shit done, sit down for a couple hours. And Lenny and I both commented the amount of stuff the laser focus for whatever reason that my group has online is so much better than when we're in person. This Saturday, I have my Axis Mundi game, and Lenny's Cthulhu game is on Friday. And those are in person. And there's going to be plenty of opportunity for... I don't mean to stop the game for a second, but let me tell you about this fish I caught. I don't mean to stop this. Hang on. That reminds me, have you seen this movie? And it's going to happen. That none of that side talk happens online. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's hard to talk over the top of each other. It's hard to hear, But the side conversations and the craziness of in-person gaming just doesn't happen with my group online. Excuse me. But this week, tomorrow, Tuesday, AJ will run his 5e game, his Midgard game.
Set in Midgard. He's running it for you
and his sister, my daughter, Ilana. Yep.
Okay, just you. So you two as players.
Just the two of us.
Yeah.
Yep. He did a.
Wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute. So he's running that tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tuesday nights. So, the reason I ask and poke is because when I was growing up, no D&D, like during the school year, no D&D during the week.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
It's just at home.
Sure.
With us.
Still, nonetheless,
They're both getting straight A's. Alana skipped a grade. She's taking high school classes.
Of course. I'm sure. I'm not questioning your parenting, Brett.
No. I'm just saying if I were to have a discipline or a grade problem.
Right. Yes.
Like, there's this is one more hammer for the old man to drop with.
True.
This is one more privilege I could take away, as needed.
Yeah. Go ahead and play that Xbox. You're not playing D&D anymore.
Exactly. I'm taking away your Xbox too. I was gonna say, I don't know if I told you this when he kicked off the game. We started off, Ilana and I are characters. I'm a dwarf. She's a dragonborn. We're arguing back and forth, having little fun banter, talking. We get a job to go figure out what's happening to these dwarven caravans. And we interview one of the survivors, and he mentions this strange shadow flitting across the canyon walls. And I say, what did the shadow look like? Was it man-shaped? AJ looks at me with squint eyes. Yes. And Lana goes, what is that? I said, I know what that is. She goes, how do you know what that is? He said, I've been doing this for a very long time and know what that monster is. AJ's like, don't say anything. He said, I'm not going to say anything.
He needs to turn it on its head. I hope you're wrong, Brett.
I wasn't. It was a Paraton.
Oh.
That's a goddamn Paraton.
Gotta have a talk with that kid. All right, here's the deal.
But he made me roll an Arcana check before I could say anything. He said, you have to roll an Arcana check. Your wizard has to make an Arcana check to see if he knows it. You can know it, Dad, but your wizard might not. So, okay.
I'm glad he's schooling you.
Oh, he is. He's keeping me honest. Yeah. How about you, man? You played a little Merkborg.
I did play Merkborg. I took on the role as Vemit. So Vemit, I have a scar on my eye, and there was special wording, of course. So I had a scarred eye, and I was short-sighted or whatever, and I had a patch over one eye, and I was a gutter scum. That was my class, kind of thing, and. Of course, then at the beginning of the game, Harrigan's like, you're cursed. And everybody's got to roll to see how the curse has manifested itself in your particular character. And of course, mine was that my nose was not only rotted, but if it was gone, like rotted off. So I had no nose. Wow. Yeah. Gabe's was like half of his nose, right? The other guys had I think it was Jim's character, his ears or something. And then Michael's was something else. So yeah, I had gone from wanting to do Cockney accent all day to talking like this the whole game.
You have no nose.
Some weird breathing. So yeah, awesome. There'll be a link in the die roll to check out the YouTube video of the actual play, and want to give obviously a big thanks to Harrigan for taking the time to run, and Gabe and Michael and Jim to accompany me in the realm of Merkborg.
But how are the mechanics? Were they fun?
Yeah, so the mechanics typically it's a D20 and it's a target number. It's like a DR, and then of course the DR can kind of go up or down depending, but it's usually fixed, and that's it. And it's player facing. And then you have even a defense roll. Like, I believe that's how it went. Harrigan's like in the chat, probably going to correct me a million times, which is fine. But even like when you are attacked, it's not, I don't think it's even that they attack, it's you defend.
Yep, it's the same with Simbaroom. If when the bad guy attacks your character, you roll your D20 under your stat or whatever, plus minus, whatever the variables are. So cool.
I almost died. I did hit 0 hit points, and when you hit 0 hit points, you have a 1d4 roll, and if you roll 4, you die outright. Otherwise, the other things are, you're going to die, or you sit there mumbling, and you can, you'll be awake or conscious in so many hours, or whatever the case is. So there's those mechanics, but it's very light.
Thematic mechanics, I assume.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is on the grotesque. Well, it's usually on the grotesque side of things, and the
like Rob Schwab.
Yes.
Demon Lord grotesque.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So take Shadow of the Demon Lord. Although I haven't read it personally, but I think it's that plus the trade dress, but lighter rules. So I think Rob, and I've mentioned this on our Discord, without playing all of his games, I think it's safe to say, because this is a fact, is Rob has worked for Wizards. He's worked for Green Ronin. He's worked for the more traditional, the companies that put out more traditional product, except Shadow of the Demon Lord, right, is his own, but it's not the same. So I think he has the, Shadow of the Demon Lord, 10 sessions, it's an entire campaign. He's got some D20 roots. And so with Merkborg being OSR, then I think it's a little different.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
but
cool.
Yes, it was an interesting experience. Definitely, for sure. I enjoyed myself.
Would you do it again?
I would probably do it again with another group. I don't know. Buying it intrigues me because Harrigan, I don't have the book, but Harrigan mentioned that if you are wanting to buy the book and have everything in like a very nice, neat, formatted style, you read the contents, here's all this, it's laid out really nice and proper, equivalent to something like Old School Essentials, which is the attempt of making BX readable. It's like the Osric, right? Brett appreciates Osric because it takes AD&D and puts it all in an order that you can understand.
Oh yeah. It's much more straightforward to read through. Yes, by far.
Right. And so with Merc Borg, it is a lot of artistic expression within the realm of the book. And so it's different tables that you flip a page. It's kind of like some of these zines, right? You flip a page, the page is completely different looking than the page prior. And
so
how
it's visually shocking or visually discordant.
Yes.
There we go. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I think it would be a great one shot or maybe small campaign arc to kind of live it up, but you got to be in that space too, right? It's not like D&D can be that, but it's
You'd have to use some muscle to make a D&D do that, right? Could it do it? Yeah,
right.
But this is thematically dressed and set to do that.
I just picture it as a world where the sun is never present. It's always a night, like it's noon and it's dark as shit out, and
interesting.
Yeah. So, anyways, I had a good time, and I appreciate everybody that played. And that was it. So then tomorrow night I play Delta Green, and eventually Star Wars Mothership. I'm a miss. So one of the guys.
Oh, that's right. You forgot. No, I forgot.
Forbidden Lands. Forbidden Lands. I was supposed to play Thursday, but we were down a character in session 0. I'm said, well, I'd run anyway, but I guess I backtracked on that. Phil was nice enough to say, "Hey, I'll run Ipsilon 4 if you guys want to play Mothership," and so we got Mothership going. And
nice.
Phil ran that, and it was great. I played Dr. Charles Sanders, I think was his last name. Saunders? Branson. Charles Branson. Getting all my characters mixed up.
Charles Bronson. Got it.
Charles Branson.
Not a Death Wish. I got it. Well, you got a Death Wish.
I thought of Bronson, and then I had to
Death Wishes total.
Yeah, I had Bronson, but I had to change it.
Okay.
And so, that was fun. And Phil did a really good job of that and did it like last minute. Like, hey, I'll do this if you guys want to. And we ran with it. And Harrigan played the android. And that was. And then Kevin played Teamster. He played like a 19-year-old Teamster. Like, hey, I want to play Xbox and shit like that. It was pretty, pretty hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Jace. So yeah, it was fun. I think I would run that module. I have it. I've never read it, thank God, but I'm going to probably maybe run that for the convention.
Very cool.
Game hole. So, yep, there you go. That was that I'm done.
Awesome. I don't think I got anything else. We good?
Yeah, let's get in a random encounter.
Do that.
All right. Random encounter. Segment in the show where we field emails, voicemails, comments from social media.
You.
Brett always pokes at me the first one. Beer Leaguer. Oh, my scene doesn't switch. Piss me off. All right. Beer Leaguer comments on Beyond Your Table. Sean and Brett, first off, thanks for the podcast and the community you've built and the rigor and hard work that goes into keeping a regular cadence of shows and fresh topics. You're welcome, sir.
Absolutely.
It's helped many of us stay connected to others who share common interests during a challenging year in isolation. The show has become my go-to Sunday soundtrack during a long walk or run, and Sean's Saturday morning forum feels a lot like Saturday morning cartoons used to feel.
I love it. That's actually high praise. Saturday morning cartoons was the highlight of my week when I was a kid.
Then that's the way I shall embrace that.
I would take it as such.
Thank you, Beer Leaguer. I always look forward to both, and I believe I speak for many BSers in sharing our gratitude for these channels and for cultivating such an engaged and interesting community. Thank you, Beer Leaguer. And being a part of that, you contribute, so thank you very much.
Absolutely. This is the first comment in the forums, too.
Yes.
from Beer Leaguer. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you stepping up and writing into us like that. That's awesome.
Sean and Brett, here we go. All this dovetails into your Beyond Your Table topic from your most recent podcast. Everyone knows virtual role-playing has been rising, growing leaps and bounds this year, especially with platforms such as Roll20 and Foundry and others. Along with Wizards of the Coast putting their full marketing weight behind online tools like D&D Beyond and Twitch, etc., everyone knows all this and yada yada. My question for you, having either of you experienced anything beyond an apples-to-apples recreation of the live role-playing experience virtually in this last year, as in one game master and a table full of players, with the GM largely doing all they are tasked with doing in a live setting? Yes, it would be my answer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when I run a game online, it's pretty much the only thing that's different is the monitor, microphone, and the screen. It's the same game otherwise. If I'm using Theater of the Mind, it's Theater of the Mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do much different.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could speak on behalf of Brett too, in saying that if we're going to run a game online or in person, much of the only difference is the medium. Kind of, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of how I try to approach it like that because I don't want to. I like what I do and I like how I do it. I'll try different things and someone will come up with a really good idea. Some of our listeners have pitched in some great ideas like, "Ooh, I want to try that approach." So I'll try that. But I would do that online or in person. So I don't really, nothing much different there.
Yeah. I might not have the DM screen up in front of me on a virtual game.
The only reason I do is because I need my table in the AD&D game.
Right.
I don't have that memorized anymore.
Yeah. So Brett was just talking about his group and how he's running. What was I going to go with that? The seriousness of or not.
Oh, the focus.
Yeah. You find it more online, more focused than in person?
Yeah, I think it's because those of us who live in the world of conference calls and so forth, you get 2-3 gamers in a room. Everyone starts talking on top of each other. They can't understand what's going on. What's that? Too much noise. Everyone just stops. One person's turn, next person's turn. If anyone interrupts, they say, "I'm sorry," and they back off. If you get the 6 or 7 of us in an actual live in-person group, no one gives 2 shits if they're interrupting the other person sometimes. It's kind of a bit of a free-for-all. And a lot of, "Hey, let me tell you about the movie I just saw," type of thing. But online, it's like a laser focus for us. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just works really well. We have more done in 2 to 3 hours there than we do in 5 hours regular.
I don't always experience the same thing. I have one guy who seems to just not. If you were to equate the same experience online to in person, my guy would get up and walk away from the table.
Really?
Yeah, he will sit at his computer and not. You won't know if they're engaged. So
yeah, that would drive me fucking bananas.
So you're kind of like, "Hey, tap, what are you doing?" "Oh, playing a video game, but let me go ahead and tell you what my character is doing for the next hour or whatever."
Yeah. How about you don't show up to the game next week?
Right.
Anyway, carry on.
I'm not necessarily talking about moving tokens around a virtual tabletop or those types of innovations. Fog of War, sound effects, interactive character sheets. I'm talking about a wholesale reinvention of role-playing experience, taking full advantage of the remote nature of things.
Who's got an example? You read them up.
For example, what if there were 2 game masters? One to handle the physical setting and NPCs, and a second to handle how characters may interpret their surroundings, perception in all those tricky or problematic areas, or all that may come into a PC's mind, then left to the players to decide whether to share it or not based on their PC's personality traits. As an example, it could play out like this. A second game master working independently of the main game master sends a direct message to a player that would say, for example, "For a brief moment, you caught a glimpse of your travel companion's eyes, and they were as black as onyx." That information is that player's alone, and they may act on it or not, but it's solely theirs and free of any larger agenda the main GM may have in place. I've never seen or experienced this type of dynamic where the physical setting is managed independently from the mental one, but would be curious whether you have or any other situations where the virtual game experience deconstructed the role-playing game experience to such a degree. I'm sure there are many rule sets that do just that, but wondering if you've seen or experienced such a thing in your long and distinguished journey through the hobby. Cheers and beers, Bearlegger.
So do you want me to say it, or should I just give you the example?
I don't know. Am I supposed to know what it is?
So 2 things. One, I have co-GM'd before on a couple different occasions where the most successful one I had, my buddy JR and I both ran a Werewolf the Apocalypse game in person. He handled X number of NPCs. I handled these. We would run off. People would come talk to him, talk to me, do whatever. And then at certain points, we'd say, okay, let's take a break. Some of the guys go outside and smoke. JR and I get together, convince them what we did, take the info, advance the story, move on. Every other time I've tried has been a galactic goddamn mess. So 2 game masters
in person.
Is very in person.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It would have to have a similar type of bond and a similar type of approach mentality. I think where you know the other person as well as your brother or your sister, best of friends type of thing, where you could make it work. I think even if you tried it in an online environment. The other thing I enjoy doing, and I actually, now you say it, it is harder for me to do this online, and I don't know why, because I don't want to have the experience that Sean was just talking about, where if I were to text somebody online, like the message, right? Because normally in person, if we're playing, I'd be like, step outside, I have something for you. So I take the character outside, the player, and we talk to him, or the sticky note gets passed, right? You're right on it, it gets chucked at me. Last Access Mundi game, I think I had 5 or 6 of them come flying at me after a big reveal. I do this, I do that, I ignore this person, I'm going to set this up, I'm going to kill Beta's character. Just tons of stuff coming at me. Zave's a famous one. He'll write something down, slide it to me, and open it up. I'm trying to do X. Tell me what you want me to roll. I would say, give me a DC 15. Everyone looks around. Uh-oh, Dave's doing something.
All right.
He says it back, and I write an answer, and I give it to him. He's the only one who knows it. Whether he shares it or not, up to him. And with my home group and I, we've operated like that for decades, literally. But that's just a staple for us, is that you can have that type of activity. Not everybody likes to do that. But that's the only way that I have done managing the physical setting from the mental one, right? The chits are on the board, the miniatures are there, or the open dialogue of this is what the conference looks like, this is what you're standing in front of the prince, this is where you're doing X activity, and pass the note that says you see the librarian glance slightly to their left. You pass it to the person. They go, oh my God. I keep a closer eye on the librarian. What'd you see? I don't have time to talk about it. This is what I'm doing. Right. So that type of thing I'm used to doing, and I don't. Co-GMing, I think, is incredibly difficult. Somebody out there probably has had much better experience on a more regular basis than I ever have. But I think with online, I don't want to. The games that tend to run online have been more cooperative, or if there's something happening, the people I've played with when I've run my Streets of Avalon actual play, or when I've run with Sean and so forth, if something's like, okay, I'm going to smash cut over to Sean's activity. He's doing a private scene. Such and such happens. Everyone else listens. They're entertained. They get it. And Sean rejoins the group, or I switch over. Everyone pretends they don't know what the fuck just happened because Sean isn't there to tell them. His character isn't there, so they draw the line. And I think that's kind of how we've kept the mental versus the physical separate. So that's what I'm seeing on my side. Sean, what do you think?
The thing that's going through my brain is how do you compare the at the table to virtual? What is missing between the two? And the only difference is the physicality of being there face to face, literally reaching out and being able to touch somebody or move them off into a room privately. Somebody could say, well, I could just whisper that to them online. Yep, you could do that. That's a lot of typing, but you could do that, right? So that piece is there. You could feasibly go, okay, I'm going to FaceTime you, Brett.
Yep.
right? You could do that. You can't hand somebody a piece of paper, right? You can't pick up their miniature necessarily. But even somebody could say, yeah, you can. You could do it on the virtual tabletop. You pick up their token and you move it for them. So the only difference between, I think, face-to-face and the virtual world is the fact that you're physically not in the same room. And anything honestly, that comes with that limitation, that's kind of it. And some of these virtual tabletops and online tools, some of them do make up for some of the components that are missing, but it may not be the best experience. Like if virtual reality were a thing, there'd be no difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The technology piece where if I want to whisper a long thing that I would physically whisper to Sean,
right?
Tickety tick 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 tick. So I'm focusing on my typing, and it would have been take the guy on the left, right. Just I'd lean over and say, Sean, take the guy on the left. The game master would hear me mumble something. He'd be like, whatever, I don't care. She's still running. When the time comes, boom, we know what we're doing. Now, if I say, take the guy on the left, send. I'm focused there for that brief time, short conversation. It still takes me out of what else is happening sometimes. I don't know. There's a speed of thought. And sometimes when you're gaming with people that you know very well, or even if you don't know them that well in person, there are times when people are talking, they're looking at stuff, and they look at their character. If you're using minis, for example, I've seen this many times. They pick up their mini, and they're like, the rest of the DM is talking, the GM's going about her business, and the player picks it up, and Eileen holds her mini over by the big bad guy, and Sean goes, mm-mm. Shakes his head. She goes, okay. She nods, okay, puts her mini back down. That conversation was, I'm going to go over here and attack him, or I'm going to go over here and do something. And Sean's like, and she's looking for Sean to say, good idea, bad idea. No, bad idea. Just a little nod of the head, shake of the head. That type of communication can happen in real time.
Sure.
In person. And some of those subtle social cues are tougher to do online. It's a fact. People have talked about that. I've been doing conference calls and video conferencing now for over a year. And there are subtleties that you miss in person. And some people are very self-conscious on camera and don't do well at it. There's a gentleman I had to talk to today for work. Super nice guy. I've met him in person before, and we get along fine. But every time he has to talk to me one-on-one on a video conference at work, he acts like he's afraid. I'm like, I know he's not afraid of me. It's not. That's not it. We've spent a lot of time in the office together, working long hours on projects and stuff over the last 4 years. So I know this dude's not scared of Brett. But he does not like the camera in his face. He doesn't like the vision of, I can see me talking up here and my weird mannerisms. So I'm trying not to look at that. I'm trying to just look at Sean. It throws some people off. So yeah, I think you're right, Sean. I think you hit on something there. There are components of the virtual that are kind of cool, but I think it's not total VR. It's just not there.
One, it's
some of the other pieces.
The thing that you mentioned is an example of what you will miss in face-to-face than you would even VR. Jeff goes to the bathroom, he could still hear me. If I'm yelling loud enough at the table and I'm there in person. Jeff, what are you doing? It's your turn. I'm stabbing with my sword. Okay, great. Okay, all right, pass. I'm waiting. Hold on. Or whatever.
Yeah.
If somebody gets away from the virtual table, I mean, they're like, hey, where the hell is he? I don't know where he's going. Can he hear me? Oh, he can hear you. Oh, okay. But I also think
and
that...
And then they come back, I sent you a fucking message. Why don't you read the group chat?
But there's also, I've played a Skype game, no video and no VTT, just audio only, period. And you freaking pay attention. And if you don't, they're not paying attention very, very quickly.
90% of the Streets of Avalon stuff I did with Sneezak, Kev, Thulu, and Andy, and all that, and Tom, that was some of the folks had bad internet connections, so video was off.
Yeah,
video was off. It was just sound. You pay real close fucking attention.
Yeah,
everyone has their turn to talk, and as the game master, you better be moderating and making sure everyone's got their time, because no one can raise their hand and say, "Wait about me," right?
Right. And you can't
tricky stuff.
And sometimes you can't read are they bored? Are they not bored? Are they engaged? Are they not engaged? If you're face to face, you could,
like right now, Sean can't tell how mad I am at him because I'm smiling. He can't tell. He can't tell. He doesn't know how hard I'm going to hit it.
But if I was there in the room, I could read Brett's body language.
You could read it, yes. You could see the rage building up, the tension. Yeah, you could totally see it.
Even Brett's lighting and filtering, he masks out the redness of the face. That's why he looks more pale.
That's why I look happy.
We're never going to get done with this episode.
Oh, Jesus. That was good. All right, I'll move on. Todd Crapper is up next. He commented on Beyond Your Table, which I kind of figured Todd would. As he says, oh gee, what could possibly have me eager to listen to the episode? Could it be Satan? There comes a point in a game's design where it has to function without its creator or creators. And that's when you learn if the game is solid. Not because it worked exactly as you wanted it to, as if you were holding everyone's hand, but it worked despite you not being there. Grammatical interpretation alone is one of the key reasons. But it mainly comes down to people doing whatever the fuck they want with your game and still feel like it's your game. It's why Pathfinder First Edition was also known as D&D 3.75, because it still tasted like D&D 3.5, but with hot sauce. Or as a Dale donut, depending on who you asked. Oh, Todd. Yeah. That's funny.
Pokey. Yeah.
Pokey. He continues. No one runs the same game in the same way. Hell, I don't even run my own games as written because I adapt it to suit any number of reasons. But those adaptations are still based on the core principles built into the game, and that's where games, adventures, supplements, and other products aim. Not dead center, just anywhere on the target. The more precise it needs to be in order to function at the basic level, the harder it is to implement. See what I did there? Basically did the same thing that Brett and Sean did during the episode. But in my own words, same thing. Except mine was done with a lot more fucking class, you shitheads. Crap her out. Well, I never claimed to have any class, Todd, so.
Nor did I.
No, so you immediately have more class than we do. But I like the summation here. I like this idea of the adaptations based on the core principles built into the game, and that's where those things aim. That's what you're trying to get to. So I think that's what I meant, and I'm going to talk about it in another episode when I said Jared Rasher broke my Avalon cosmology and his interpretation. But I've talked to him. I've talked to people who play in his game. I've seen his write-ups, listened to, watched his stuff, and I'm like, it's still Avalon. I watched my buddy Alpha the first time I had anybody run Avalon with me as a player in it, which was the weirdest fucking thing in the world for me. And he did it. He changed parts of it. I'm like, I never thought about that. I don't know if I'd have done that.
Can't believe you let him get away with that shit, Brett.
Well, he's limping now. But the point is, it still felt enough like Avalon that I let him, limp. Kevin ran an Avalon game. And he did a great job. And he took things in directions like, interesting cosmology change. That's interesting the way he messed this around. He didn't mess it up. He messed around with it, changed it up a little bit. Cool. It still felt like an Avalon game. All the right trade dress was there. So was the right stuff. The right stuff. Insofar as it felt like you were playing Avalon in that setting and not like, well, it says Avalon on the cover, but it's really Eberron. Right? It wasn't that drastic. So good stuff. Thanks, Todd. That was very helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. All righty then. Mr. John K-Word emails us on MOOCs. Hi, guys. I love your show as always. Thank you. Yes. Unless I am mistaken, no one mentioned Brute Squads from the 7th Sea in your MOOC discussion. Take this with a grain of salt because I have not run 2nd edition or 1st for that matter, but Brute Squads are integral to the system. They are a group of NPC treated like a single character with their damage based on how many people in the squad as well as it is their hit points. Yeah, same as Star Wars minions, pretty much. On top of that, they come in a variety of flavors: guards, assassins, duelists, pirates, and thieves. Each variety has a different power which can be activated by the game master spending a danger point. Danger points are kind of like fate points, but just for the game master. Guards are basically ablative armor for villains. Assassins go before the heroes. Duelists get a second attack. Pirates can abduct an NPC, and thieves can steal an item from the heroes. My home group has flirted with running the 2nd edition a couple of times, but it was too narratively driven for them. Many of them loved 1st edition that was a more tactical game. I don't really know how well it works, but it sounds like fun. This sad story here is that I backed the Kickstarter for 2nd edition, which gave me all the digital versions of the 1st edition books. That and most of the new books, too. Now, that is some digital clutter. By far, I have more 7th Seventh Sea books than any other game. I think its time is coming for my home group. Any year now. Sigh. Keep up the good work. John Keyword.
John, I had the pleasure of being able to play in my first trip to Queen City Conquest a number of years ago. I got pulled into John Wick running 7th Sea 2nd Edition. It is very narrative, and I should have remembered the Brute Squads because we encountered one. It was fun. It was fun. They're easy to knock down, have a good time with, but they did all the cool stuff that Sean and I talked about. They tried to kidnap people. They were in the way. They were distractions. They were a blade of armor for the bad guy. It was a blast. So it's been a long time since I cracked out my 2nd edition rule book. But take a look at that, folks, if you're interested. And I do agree that's a very narrative system. And I think if that's something that you like, it's definitely worth looking into, I believe. It was a lot of fun when I played it. So there you go, Sean. I played something different and fun. See that? All right. Thank you, John. Speaking of John, we got a John H. Hits us with some feedback here. A few random thoughts inspired by the last few episodes. One, World of Darkness was my jam back in the day. Loved it. Played so much Werewolf the Apocalypse in high school, and it was awesome. Classic World of Darkness is pretty rough around the edges mechanically. It didn't take a rocket scientist to break the game. We had a few players who enjoyed doing just that. But the setting was rich, interesting, and well supported. When New World of Darkness came out, I was pleased to see that they mostly fixed the game system, but quickly realized that they'd taken all the fun, the mystery, the wonder, and above all, the hope out of the setting. Werewolves went from warriors of Gaia to self-serving territorial thugs. Mages went from pioneers on the edge of reality, fighting the forces of stagnation, madness, and malice to self-serving territorial thugs. And changelings went from creatures of the dreaming, walking the line between banality and schizophrenia by bringing dreams to life, inspiring artists to cowering victims of abuse. All the meaning was ripped out, and what was left was no fun to play anymore, even with a better game system. It's still good for playing mortal horror games, but the splat books are just taking space on my game shelf. One thing World of Darkness got right was the structure of the character. Attributes rank 1 through 5, skills 1 through 5, and special abilities. Bam! Perfect recipe for a character, and all these years later, nobody's improved on it. Bold statement. That's how characters are built in everything from World of Darkness to Star Wars to 7th Sea to Cortex. Speaking of Cortex, Cam Banks and crew at Fandom are about to revolutionize how RPGs are made and marketed. Check out what they're doing with the Cortex Prime system, cortexrpg.com. They position to start cranking out fun, balanced games connected to existing licensed IPs and do so very quickly. They're mostly done with a Masters of the Universe game and a Dragon Prince game. And as the creators of D&D Beyond, they're building some online tools for designing your own Cortex hacks quickly and easily, selling them on their marketplace and playing them on their platform. Watch what they're doing, because I think they just might overtake D&D as best known tabletop RPG. Like World of Darkness almost did 20 years ago. These days, that's a bold. That is John H is laying down the bold here,
John, man. I gotta say, if you're right, good on you. But that sounds to me like the next CCG is gonna overtake Magic the Gathering, and that shit hasn't happened.
We'll see, man, because he does have a point. World of Darkness almost did 20 years ago. It was on the edge,
and Pathfinder took it over.
Did
right?
Pathfinder beat them for a while. But people say, well, it's just D&D. Point is, different company. Anyway.
That is, man.
These days, continues John, Genesis is my jam. I've had more fun with homebrew Genesis games in the past couple years than with any other game in my life. Their custom settings are good, especially Shadow of the Beanstalk. But where the game shines is in homebrewed settings. It took me a couple sessions, to get the hang of it and to trust things like the magic system. But once I did, it was awesome. I admit the game seemed incomplete when I first looked at it, but I kept worrying that I wasn't prepped enough. But the system works, and it's way more thorough and complete than it seemed to be, especially with the expanded player's guide. On paper, it looks a little odd, but at the table, it creates amazing adventures. Thanks for the terrific podcast, John. I like John because he's not afraid to say what he thinks here.
No,
seriously.
I suppose.
Because, he's got some bold statements. You're like, hey, he does not... I've heard the same complaints in the New World of Darkness system, when they changed werewolves and vampires and changelings, where they tweaked everything like that. They went in a direction not a lot of people liked. I heard the same complaints. And I would validate the fact that those complaints had a lot of merit because those games are not that popular to my knowledge. When I talk to people about it, everyone goes, yeah, I used to play that. And they're talking about the old game. They're not talking about the new version or the newer version. It just didn't seem to go. They produced books and stuff, and I'm sure people were playing it. But the folks I was hanging around with and the game stores I went to couldn't move the shit. So, yeah. No, and the Cortex thing, that I did not know enough about that, cortexrpg.com. So I'll have to poke around at that. If that's true, that's pretty bold if they can do that. If nothing else, cranking it out like that, that's pretty powerful.
Our friend Herman for Puerto Rico is he's got it on the games list to run for players for BSers. And he and I were talking back and forth one day and explaining kind of he joined us, like I think I was online, and he joined and like had a actual kind of virtual face-to-face conversation about Cortex. And he explained, I was not aware of how it worked. And apparently it is literally a role-playing game toolbox. Like when you talk about toolbox for AD&D or whatever.
No, I've heard that about Cortex.
You want to build your own role-playing game. It gives you a framework and how you want, like, okay, do you want core attributes? What does that look like? And how do you want it to roll? And so it's a little bit more, if you want to get into that, if you want to build your own car, instead of taking a motor and a frame and then kind of making it, and you want to change it up, Cortex RPG, I think, is the way to go. But I don't know much about it.
See, to your earlier comments, Sean, now what I hear John saying about Cortex makes me go, I should check out Cortex. Because I like building shit, man.
You might want to.
It's totally worth looking at that, if nothing else, to see, what do I think I could do with it? And the other thing that's interesting here is Genesis. Genesis is the same as your Star Wars game, right, Sean?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you're not paying attention.
No, Herman's in the chat. He's like, yeah, man.
I'm teasing you.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun with the Star Wars game, even though I sat in the ship and tried to use the ship guns to shoot people and other things. It's interesting that he's saying that the homebrew Genesis is where it really shines for him, because for me, when I heard that Genesis was going to be kind of a setting agnostic, homebrewy type, hey, universal system type of a thing, I actually pulled away from it thinking, I don't know, man. It really seemed to do well with X. Do I want to do that? I don't know. Would it really? So, well, I mean, honestly, man, when our listeners say shit like this, I think, okay, these are sharp gamers. They took the time to write us and tell us something. That's got me interested. Yeah, it's got funky dice, a little bit different, but the way my home group likes to play with that narrative approach and some of the storytelling pieces, again, I could try to throw that at the table. And I could think of a couple of guys in my group that'd be like, not for me. And that'd be fine, because the other people who would play with it would totally dig it. So,
right.
Interesting.
It's one of those where you've got this is the argument I get in with Brett, because he's, hey, I do that at my game table. Like, I already implemented the Genesis stuff.
Yeah, I did. It's because I'm awesome.
Because he's awesome. But the thing is, my argument would be that you have players at your table that don't do that.
They don't want to.
Huh?
They won't.
Yes, they don't like the fail. They don't. Failing's bad, and I know I've played with people myself that's a taboo. We don't want to fail. It's always success. Like that's what the game is about. And with Genesis, as it's mechanized, you don't have a choice. Like, that's the tea leaves, man. You got to come up with something that's how did you fail, or how did you succeed with a drawback? What does that look like? It's not a bad thing. It's just more flavor.
No, it is, and that's why if I played a game that's how that game is played,
right?
And if Dave likes to play like that, and Lenny doesn't like to play like that, they cannot play together unless someone decides that they're just going to suck it up and play.
Right. Would they play this game? So I
don't know. I could probably get them to try it once at least. But I think I've known these guys for over 30 years. So, okay, I can pick the couple that will try it and not like it, partly because coming up with narration on the spot based on the tea leaves is not their style. They don't like that.
Right.
They are much more of a, hey, this happened. Brett, can you help me here?
Sure.
And
which is
everyone else doing the thing, though, they would feel very left out.
And you could do that in Genesis. Like
yes.
It is.
However,
it is written where the bad is from the game master and the good is from the players. But I've always run Star Wars. Like, okay, what do you think?
I'm looking at my group. I'm thinking, I don't know. I'll try it, but I know a couple of guys would be like, wow, this is really fucking awesome. I think they'd really get into it. Cool. Good stuff, though.
Yeah, good stuff.
Like I said, when our listeners talk and when you bring up game ideas, I'm like, I don't always jump, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I'm like, I'm going to check into that. I do. Yeah. 90% of the time I check into it. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to put the time in learning that one. I don't know if the payoff's going to be big enough for me. But
the Cortex, I am interested if you do
Cortex is interesting.
Like,
it sounds interesting, if nothing else.
Piques your curiosity.
Open up a little extra web page there so I can check it out when we're done.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get into the main topic. Holy cow.
Oh, fuck, we're going to be late, dude.
Yeah. Well, it's relative. You got somewhere to go, Brett?
Bed. All right. So, what the hell are we talking about? So, Brett's been talking about his group and his bullshit for a long time here. 6 years. One of the things that Sean has been talking about, I think in your Saturday chats and other things, you've been bemoaning game group problems, and I've talked about them too. We oftentimes talk about who we're playing with and so on and so forth. Between the two of us, I'm the one that has a group that has been essentially the same group for 30 years. You do not have that. Am I correct?
It's morphed, right? I don't have. Okay, so if you define that as I have the same game group and none of the players have changed, come or gone, well, more coming than going, then yes, I would say I have not had that happen.
Okay, that's not bad, right?
No, I'm not. I don't take umbrage.
So what
I'm
saying though is that you've also said repeatedly, like you'll have Doc's game and then you'll stop playing with Doc for a while.
Yep.
And then you play with this game with Jeff, and that'll dry up for a while.
Right.
You're like, I'll go play with Doc again for a while. I'll move over here.
Yeah.
You're kind of a tease, really.
Well, I like to think of myself as one of those easy gamers that likes to sleep around a little bit.
Nice. I think so. So what I want to talk about here is I think it's funny sometimes because I don't want to come across that, look, the best way to game is to have this regular core gaming group that you stick on for 30 years, come hell or high water, blah, blah, blah. Right? That's not the only way to do this.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Damn.
I had to. I don't want you to feel bad.
If you were going to say the opposite, I'd be like, whoa, we have a show.
We have a show, you dick. So AJ and I have talked about this where he said, boy, that'd be really cool if my friends and I could play as long as you and your friends have. I had to remind him, I said, dude, remember, the guys I played with in high school that you're playing with now, I don't play with that anymore at all.
Right.
I said, everyone I'm playing with now, I met in college and on.
He doesn't know. Like, that's his world right now.
He's 15.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, interesting. I said, you're going to meet a lot of different people, blah, blah, blah. So you have that dad talk, right? You parent talk, you tell your kid. And my wife has had the same conversation with my daughter and with AJ. I've talked to Alana, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Point being is that it is cool, though, to have a group that you know very well, that you get on with fine and so forth. Well, my initial my inability to grasp, perhaps is a good way to say, like the safety tools perspective, is I'm like, why would I need that? And I have to stop and go, wait a minute, dumbass. You know these guys for over 20, 25 years, right? I have had a couple come and go. The youngest player's only been with me for 20 years, right? But generally speaking, I know that group of people incredibly well. They are my best friends, apart from Sean. These are the people that I know. When I move, they're here to help me move. Sean couldn't because of distance and so on. But Sean's like, hey, I can help you move. I can do stuff, and
I believe the analogy is they will help you. Friends will help you move. A best friend will help you move a body.
Yes, my friends have plenty of shovels, backhoes, and we know where the gravel pit is.
Right.
So, and where the coyotes hang out. Anyway, point is, these are my best friends, and I've said this before. In gaming, guys like Sean, I've met you through gaming. It happened to be work, happened to be the catalyst, but hey, we're gamers, and this is what we do. So we're friends, and these are the best friends I have. So if I'm going to game with Sean, I know how Sean ticks pretty well after 6+ years of hanging out with you and talking gaming and gaming with you. So if I sit down to run a game, like, okay, I know that X, Y, and Z isn't going to bother Sean. I've talked about this ages back, but dead babies in Brett's home group game is a joke because I overdid the dead babies at some point. If you don't believe me, listen back ages ago in the podcast. How deep are they? Hip deep, ankle deep? It's not that bad yet. It's like high tide, right? It was just the dumbest thing. It was early on in my vampire days. Point though is that I know what I can what the group tolerates, what they like, what they don't like, what somebody's hot buttons are, because I know these guys. So I'm like, safety tools, what do I need that for? And I start to talk to Sean more about it, and he's telling me about how he's got these different groups he plays with. I'm like, aha, that makes sense. Oh, yes, I'm running games at cons again. This makes sense. I'm going to have an inconsistent group that I may be playing with, right? I have a new game I want to try called Simba Room. I want to play it with some cool people. I hook up with some BSers and stuff. I have played with some of you, not all of you. And with some of you that have played with, I've only played a couple times or a few things. I don't know. I know Tim DeShane okay, but I don't know if there's a certain thing that will flip his switch and he'll get pissed at me, or he'll hate it, or he'll not like this, or he'll be offended by it. I think Tim's a pretty hard guy to offend. But the point is I don't know that because I haven't played with him. Right. Played a little bit with Eileen. I've talked to Eileen online. We've interacted with her. I have a fair idea, but I don't know all as well as Lenny. I've known the guy forever. My biological son is named after him. Right. So
you have a son named Lenny?
I do. That's what I call AJ. Yeah, it's AJ's other name.
Right.
So there's familiarity which comes with it, and there can be some cool pieces to it. In that, generally speaking, my group is very open to trying a new game. Hey, I got a new thing. They will try it. If they don't like it, they're also not shy to tell me, I think this is terrible. They're not shy to tell me that. And they're also not shy to say, if you want to play this, that's fine. The 4 of you are having a good time. I'm not playing. Not mad. We got other stuff going on. Most of the games I'm playing in are home group games because there's different. We're basically a club. So-and-so, and Nick's running his game, Lenny's running his, Brett's running his, and Alpha's running his. And I'm running 2. But anyway, point is we've got all these different things going on. If you don't like one piece, there's somebody else is running some game that you're going to enjoy within our group.
And I don't have that. I don't have that in one group.
No, you don't. And
I have that in Doc's group because we do have other GMs. But in one group, like Jeff and those guys, I mean, Joe could, but Joe doesn't run as many games as I do.
And I'm very fortunate with that. And I would be, and I don't want to take it for granted. And I try not to with the guys when I'm playing with them. But I think it's cool to have, but there is a piece there that I think that is, how do I say this? They're a good group. And by a good group, I mean they're close friends. We know each other very well. We want to try new things. We're honest with each other. If I ask someone's opinion, they will tell me constructively. They will not look me in the eye and say, you suck, this game sucks, and you should have never been born. They're not going to do that to me. Well, maybe they might. But
they'll do it in a more constructive way.
A much more constructive way. Or they'll say things like, I just don't like this mechanic. This is really driving me nuts. I think this would be much more fun if we did X. Or I have had people say, I cannot understand this. I don't know what's wrong, what mental block I have, but I do not fucking get this. It's just a challenge for me. I don't like this, right? And that's fine. Not everybody has a regular gaming group that they're playing with that behaves in such a way, and I feel I'm very fortunate in that. And I don't think it's as common as perhaps it should be. And by that, I mean, I see so many things, and I was telling Sean before the show started, damn near don't ever want to go on social media again just because of the negative, holy fuck. Even if it's not like your political view sucks and mine is the only right one, But the poor gamers out there who are like, my game master did this. I have a player who won't. I'm like, oh my God. I cannot believe the amount of people that are stuck one way or another playing with shitty people. And this isn't even like well, they always play the same character. That's like whatever. That's a weak gripe in my opinion.
Right.
But you'll see people talking about this game master doesn't respect me. This player is a alpha male player and he's always smacking our pawns around and he takes over and no one stops him. I can't get anyone to listen. Why are you gaming?
Yeah.
It feels like people are very stuck. And I think about, why don't you just quit that group? Right.
Right.
And
and here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
And it's not easy, but I really think on the flip side is I'm very fortunate. I have this really good group that I can pop and do different games. I can try different things with. But Sean, on the flip side, you have a number of different groups that may have less depth or breadth to them, right? They may be a little more, this is going to shallow, stagnant. Those are bad words, but they may be a little more set, right? So like Jeff's group, if you wanted to play Morkborg with them, I don't think that would go over as well.
Two people would be well, actually, I think I could convince three of them to give it a shot. Like I
maybe I'm wrong.
I think Jeff is you. Okay, so I love Jeff to death. I've known him; he's like a brother to me, and that's why I can hate him and love him at the same time. And I don't hate him actually, but
no,
he is kind of D&D guy. Like that's kind of the deal. And I've offered to run other. Now we're playing Star Wars. Okay, so when I say he's D&D guy,
he also cosplays as Vader.
Right.
He's also a Star Wars nut.
So I think. So to paint the full picture of those guys. I haven't done them a lot of justice because I haven't elaborated about who they are and what their gaming backgrounds are and what they prefer and all this. And it's a dynamic group in the fact that there's two guys that I've known since the dawn of time, and there are two guys that I know for about a year, and it's only through Tomb of Annihilation. So the dynamics there. And then, of course, we haven't even gotten into my Forbidden Lands game. You want me to start somewhere, Brett? Holy cow, let's go there.
What I'm saying is you've got these disparate groups that are doing different things and you've had different types of relationships with them. Where did you meet them? How long you've been gaming with them? What do you know about them and so forth? But I think you do a very good job in figuring out how to make it work in all those different groups. And I think that's honestly it's a skill that having a solid gaming group like mine is fun. We get along really well and so forth. However, sometimes we can be a little myopic, and we can get to a point where we're like, well, this is how everybody does X, right? You can get that way when you're very insular and you have a thing. And one of the things that the show has done from talking to you and then playing at conventions is seeing how other people are doing stuff. And yeah, I might be like, interesting. I looked at that Cortex thing. I don't think I like it. But I looked at it. There's plenty of other people who are Pathfinder guy or D&D gal, and that's all they do. And they know of nothing else. They don't want to know of anything else. That's just what they do. But I think there's an interesting thing that sometimes I think everybody, this is bold, people have a tendency as gamers who want to cultivate a really good gaming group. So a group we can play games with on a regular basis. They're timely. They show up. They respect. It's not forever and a year to get together. We've got this really good gaming group. It's great, and so on. And then you're like, hey, I'd like to try Paranoia. And they, well, I thought we were playing D&D together. We're the D&D group. Why are we playing Paranoia? Well, I want to try something different. Well, not with us, motherfucker. You're like, oh, wow. Great. Lovely. And so I think that what I find that you've done, which I think is really impressive, honestly, is you have a number of good gaming groups that you can try and do all these different things with. If you want to play Morkborg, you want to play that Morkborg, and you want to do that, I can never remember how it's pronounced. You can play that. Mm-hmm. You can play Forbidden Lands, Star Wars, D&D, and Delta Green. You have 5 different games that you could play at the drop any week, and they're all with different groups. You may have some crossover in there, but you are the only common denominator between all that, and that is actually really cool. And I think there's some power in that because you're getting to understand different play styles, and I think there's a versatility that you are getting out of having those 4 to 5 different groups that you kind of wander through that you play with or run for. There's a versatility that you pick up that I have to that I started working on more. When I ran my for the Wednesday evening group, when I was running my Streets of Avalon game, then when I've run for you a couple times for the BSers at cons, playing at cons, getting into playing with different people. It's actually kind of scary the first couple times. Like the first time I remember playing with Dave Beatty, he's like, "Hey, would you run? Oh, it'd be really cool if you run like an could you run like a Wraith type game?" Yeah, sure, I could do that. It sounded fun. I sit down, I'm like, holy fuck, this guy asked me to do this for him. I hope I don't suck. I like get a panic attack practically. Like, what if I suck at this? Which is one of the reasons I convinced you to play with me at the table, because I'm like, Sean won't let me die. He's my friend. Hopefully you won't let me just roast here. Oh Lord, I'm sorry. Wrap it up, Brett. Moving along. Can we? Anybody else? Drinks here. So this is kind of boring. So I think there's something to be said about having the single regular gaming group, regular basis, all that stuff. But I think there's some real power and versatility in doing it the way you do it, Sean. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense, and that's why part of the reason why I kind of do it. I mean, honestly, and so we should be clear. Like, it's not. I have been very fortunate through a lot of my gaming experiences. I haven't run into a lot of terrible, nightmarish situations at all. I mean, even the weird record scratches where I've had, not a stranger, but somebody I've known, I've never gamed with, show up to like a drop-in game, botch a prison break. And they planned it, and then this one person's like, okay, I throw a grenade right here. Like an hour of planning gone in like 30 seconds. That's not a huge deal. Like, it is, but it's not like somebody coming to the game and going, I sexual assault the NPC. I do this, or, whoa, hold on a second, right?
I think I show up to a game drunk off his ass. I had to kick him out.
Right, or something like that, yeah.
I'm like, the fuck, dude?
Drinking's fine, but yeah, I don't want somebody completely slammed at the table and they're a complete mess. Yeah. So I've been very fortunate, and I've had the experience of, hey, I want to play with this person and that person, and one of those guys may bring a friend of theirs. All right, if they're a friend of theirs, they're a friend of mine, kind of thing. And it works out, and the chemistry's been fine. And they're all over the place. Like, the game group personalities, are just different. I mean, the Star Wars Living Force game was different than Jeff's group, and Jeff was in that game. But
yep,
Brett was in one game of mine, the Star Wars game, and we had Jim that he and I both worked at. We're at the same place, and then we had Kev and Austin, yep. And so I've been very fortunate, and it doesn't always work that way. And frankly, I mean, Jeff and I have had our issues with the Curse of Strahd campaign.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting that you have done and I have done that I think is it's not easy to do, and I don't know how to. It probably a whole show and real deep dive into it, but part of it is that when you have the record scratch type of things, or you don't, it's not working, right? Sometimes you got to call that shit early, right? Sometimes you're like, you know what, this isn't working for me. I need a break.
Yeah, Curse of Strahd went. God, maybe it went 2 or 3 sessions, maybe, and then it was like this.
This isn't working. You know what? I'm just going to call the ball. We're going to move on.
Right.
As I said, I had a guy show up in college at a game group I was running. He had played for a while. He was kind of a kooky dude, newer to the group. Okay, and he showed up just fucking hammered. I said, "No, get out." And he got pissed. He never came back. And he said, "Well, pretty well. You can't tell me what to." I'm like, "Yeah, I can. This is my gaming group. Get the fuck out. You're not playing drunk. You don't come in high. You don't play drunk. These are my rules. This is really simple." Don't fucking do that shit at my game. If you want to expand your reality somewhere else, go expand your reality somewhere else. Not here tonight. And I have had other people where I've had to ask them to leave. or we just reschedule around them or break up the group, reform, do, different things. Did that a few times in high school, getting away from people that were annoying or whatever. But it's hard to do sometimes if you let it go for a while, and I think that's something that you've done is that because you've got these multiple different groups to go through. If you're like, okay, this group, Doc's group wants to run Stars Without Number. I just don't feel like a Stars Without Number game. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set this one out, Doc. Tell me when you guys come back to something else. If they come back and say, hey, Jim wants to run Shadowrun, you'd be like, I don't feel like Shadowrun. Tell me when you're back. You have not walked away from the group. You stay connected to them, right? But you're able to say, look, I don't want to play that game, or whatever the case is. And I think you've done a good job when I listen to you talk off the mics and stuff about how you've kind of curated who you want to play with, right? I don't have time for this bullshit. I don't have time for this other bullshit, and especially none of that bullshit. This is the only bullshit I will tolerate. And you work to make sure that is a type of gamer at your table. And I think it takes work, I guess what I wanted to say is part of this is that even if it's building one core game group that you have for 30 years or whatever you have, this long-standing group of people that are friends until the bitter end, or if you build a couple of other gaming groups that you get involved in like Sean has done, it takes work to do it, right? You have to be willing to walk away or get people to walk away, not playing with assholes type of thing. But it's definitely, the other thing it does is that Sean and I will bemoan this on the show even, was like, God damn it, fucking players. Why do I have to be the one to organize the group? Because I like this group. I really do. It's okay to organize it, to put a little effort in, to ask the questions, to be the guy that says, hey, I want to run this game. No one knows what they want to do. I'll run this game. How about this other game? Putting in the extra effort and doing those things to help build that group and keep it together so that everybody keeps coming on a regular basis. You can build that really kick-ass rapport so that you understand how each other works and you know what'll work. You know what will work at that table, or what everybody likes, doesn't like, type of thing. Does that make sense, Sean?
It does, and it sucks that people are in groups or there's a bad apple, and they it's like having that. We watch movies and we've gone through experiences in our life where we've got a friend or an associate that's obnoxious as hell, but they're, taken out of context. They're you just got to get to know them or whatever. And eventually you kind of drift away from that knucklehead because you realize they're truly a knucklehead and you're kind of tired of covering for them or trying to, basically cover for them, vouch for them. But, it's the game, like rules, settings, scheduling, all this stuff we talk about for 300 plus episodes, all it comes down to is basic chemistry. And everybody's going to have it. It is, dude, when I talk about Match.com for gamers, I'm not shitting around. It really is dating. It's like you're dating 4 or 5 people at one time. And if you're not like, hey, this just isn't working out. It's not you.
It's me. Whatever it takes.
It's not you. It's me. So, are you breaking up with me? Like
yes, I am.
It totally is. And when you could and sometimes what happens, again, with relationships, you can date somebody for 4 or 5 years. And then, you know what? It's probably, it's not, I don't want to go off into the sunset and become old and elderly with you for 40, 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go and find somebody else to do that and date maybe some other people and bring them into the fold or whatever. So it is such a weird thing when you look at it from that perspective. And when you have good folks that, and there's like the relationship can ebb and flow. Like you don't have, there's John, or actually there's another good example. So John, the guy we mentioned on the show on occasion that plays Pathfinder and has played it and has no kind of, desire to play anything else. And that's what they've recently gone to 5e because of the DM. Mm-hmm. But I knew a guy that was in that group. I worked with him. I don't know if I ever told you this, Brett, but he knew John.
I think you did.
Yeah, he knew John, and I worked with him. So we were at work having a conversation one day, and he's like, "Yeah, you just went to visit John, and because he was a client of mine at the time." And he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "I played D&D with that guy. I played Pathfinder with him." And I go, "Are you shitting me?" He's like, "No." I go, "How long have you played with him?" Like 2-3 years. And he had like, but that's kind of where it ended. Like there wasn't any more depth, right? Like Jeff, I know his son. I've seen, his daughter. I've been at his wedding. That's different. So it was almost weird when I started to get into these different groups where it was like, and some people, I don't have that depth of knowledge into their background and their life. And I'm like, how can you show up every week and play Pathfinder and not know anything about this guy?
So there is one of the things that prompted me to just bring this up to bullshit about with you, dude, is that sometimes I have to be honest. I feel sorry for people when I see them online. Like, oh, I got to find a group to play with. Oh, I'm looking over here. Oh, I play in 15 different groups. I'm like, you don't have a regular gaming group? Oh man, that sucks. Because I love mine. So I'm like, oh man,
sure.
And when I see somebody who's like constantly bouncing or trying to find or whatever it is, and then I realize, sometimes if you're a gamer who's like wants to try all these different games out there, it can be really hard to find one solid game group that wants to bounce with you every week and play, or more Bork this week and then Middle Earth role play next week. Oh, and I'm going to play DCC the week after. It's not everybody's.
Oh, you like to sleep around a lot more with different systems. Okay, that's cool. I like to keep my partnership to like 1 or 2 people.
And I have met other people that, much like our conversation about our buddy John, where they're like, oh, this is my gaming group. Like, oh, cool. You guys, well, yeah, they are people I play games with. And it's odd to me if I have a regular group of people I hang out with. Like if I was a bowler and Sean and I bowled every week on League for 6 years. And he said, yeah, I got to go pick up Tam. I'd be like, who's that? That's my wife.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know you were married. That's weird to me. It's just, and I know that sometimes people have their private and their hobby life and things are very, very separate or whatever. But I am one of those people that if I'm going to game with you for a very long time or whatever it is, I want to get to know you. What do you do for a living? Where do you hang out? Small talk crap like that is, I want to know. And I know I have met people like, why are you talking to me about that? We're here to play D&D. We just play D&D together. Okay. I joined a group like that once just because a friend of mine invited me to stand in. I'm like, wow, this is fucked up. That's how I felt. I'm like, this is a really, really weird experience for me where no one was just talk about the game. That's all we're here to do. When they're done, everyone brought their own sandwiches. They brought their own soda. They ate, drank, played D&D, and then went home. All right, cool. See you next week. And that was the end of it. Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
It just wasn't, it didn't feel very social to me. So anyway, I don't really have no big, mastermind idea here that like one type of group is better than another. But I think it's definitely worth it in this hobby to really get the most out of it is to find out what type of a gaming group environment you enjoy. Right. And for some people, that's the Brett idea of a 30-plus-year-old crew. Boom. This is what we do. We're really cool. We flip all this stuff around. Blah. Yeah, we got our issues. Yeah, I know. So-and-so's pissed off. Yeah, somebody doesn't like Warhammer First Edition. Fine. Fuck it. Whatever. We'll move around. Not a breaker. Sean, lots of different groups he can play with and can bounce around to. And some people don't give 2 fucks about any of that. And they just want to show up and play games with anybody all the time. Forever. And that's fine, too. And I think part of being game master as well as player is figuring out what you want out of a group, right? Is it what's the regular good gaming group look like to you, right? And I think Sean, you and I have talked a little bit here about what we like and so forth, and kind of in that introspection thing that we've talked about a few times here is like, what is it that you like? And we both see people online. I hate this about my group, or my group sucks, or I got this person, or how come I can't find, or what. And it's kind of the how come there's no match.com for gamers, right? I'm looking for the one group, or I'm looking for multiple groups, or whatever it is that people want. And it's tough, but I think it's one of the parts of the hobby that once you figure out what you want out of a gaming group and figure out how to make that happen, you're going to get more out of the hobby. Then it's just if you like being casual and that's what you do, you're like a casual gamer, you go to cons, you play periodically. If you played once or twice a year, that's good enough for you. Great. I know people like that. Oh yeah, we play D&D a couple times a year. I'm like, a couple times a year? What the fuck? That's not a hobby. That's not even bad. What is that? Like shoveling snow in Kentucky. It happens once a year, maybe, or once every couple of years. It's not a hobby to me, But some people like that. That's how they want to do it. And I think as you're building a gaming group, it's kind of sussing out. Do you guys like it the same way I do? Do you like your hobby the same way I do? Is that okay?
Hey, anyway. Man, I kind of like to dance around a little bit, but I don't deal with this. Is that all right? Exactly. Like, I got safe words for that shit.
We are the weirdest unsociable people, man. Gamers. It's a social activity, and some of us are just terrible at it. Some of us, like, you and I are here talking, and I'll get nervous, like running a game for people I already know. First time I ran an Avalon game online for BS was like, oh man, I hope I don't fuck this up. Oh, Sean's gonna, fuck her with Twitch stream. Oh, Jesus, what if I fuck it up? I'm nervous and sweaty. Like, why I know these people. I've talked to all of them. Why is this bothering me? Anyway, that's enough out of me. You good, Sean?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm done. I'm done for today. Everybody's had enough of me. Let's move on.
Oh, the game group. That's so, I think it's, I like having both. I think there is something to be said about having a consistent game group that you like, you've got kind of some roots in. And then I think that playing with other individuals, maybe not long-term all the time, maybe it's one shots, maybe it's a 5-session arc with maybe what you might consider AKA strangers, that can open up opportunities that you might not get with the group. So there's like a balance, I think. Like too much one way, maybe that's the promiscuous gamer.
It's like how do you want to get your fix, man?
How do you want to get your fix?
Get your fix.
Regular
all the time, same people, or you want to move it around a little bit?
This one's
getting ugly.
Let's
die roll. Let's go on to die roll. Let's move to die roll.
Yeah, die roll. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery. Totally gaming and geekery, like nothing else in this.
No, I swear.
First one.
All right.
First one, Merkberg. Actual play on YouTube. We'll have a link to that if you want to check that out, by all means. It was a good time. It was like a little over 4-hour session. And we even did a mini session 0, so kind of precursor.
Oh, nice. Yep. Very
cool. Pete, a.k.a. Dragons Are Real podcast host, talks about 2D6 fantasy and Barbarians of Lemuria. I will have a link to that. He's in our Discord and puts in his podcast on occasion. Thought maybe somebody might want to check that out. I thought it was pretty good.
Speaking of, I'll throw this at Barbarians of Lemuria. I have been toying with picking up a copy.
You might want to listen to the one episode.
I know it's OSR clone type thing, but sometimes there's some neat little nuggets in those.
Sure.
To grab. So they're not that expensive. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, let's give Pete some love. The Zone, the digital tabletop story game of magical realism, mutant weirdness, and collaborative self-destruction. Our friend Kev Thulu said, hey, I'm thinking of Sean and Austin for this. And he tagged me in Twitter, and I checked it out. And I was like, I started going down the rabbit hole. And I'm like, I posted it in our Discord. It's interesting. Interesting. I like it. I'm like kind of, yeah. So it was made for the tabletop, but given the situation for last year, he ported it to like strictly digital. And it's like, I thought I'll look into it. And it was like, start a game. And I'm like, okay, click a button. And then it would come up to the next screen. I'm like, what? And then I like, okay, invite more players. I'm like, whoa, okay, we're getting into this already. Oh, so soon. Oh, so fast. Slow down.
Easy. It's just 2D4.
We just met game.
Easy.
Again, only 2D4 miscellaneous points of gaming geekery, folks.
All right, moving on.
Last one, good Deadlands. Stuff, Weird West Savage Worlds, now available for Foundry VTT.
Oh.
So not just Deadlands and Foundry VTT, but I also have a link to all the premium content because there is a shit ton of Warhammer Fantasy that's available for Foundry.
Really? So,
yes, there is, Brett. If you click that second link and you go to the website.
I just did.
And you kind of scroll all the way down, it comes up with like a bunch of modules, rulebooks, supplements. So
holy crap.
Cubicle 7, I think, has dedicated some effort into releasing some of that. So
yeah, wow.
I only put that in there because people are like, oh, Foundry, cool. And then they play it, and then they use the stuff that's in it and the game systems and the modules that are community-based. But has everybody checked out what's actually available for all the premium content? And the weird thing is DCC wasn't listed in there, I don't think. Maybe I went right by it. But I know DCC has an actual system for Foundry as well now. So anyways, big Foundry fan, hashtag Sean loves Foundry.
It'll be interesting to see after things open up and conventions are a thing and people could show up without masks and, more and more people get to in-face regular type stuff. How many people joined the hobby or really got into the hobby in the virtual world and want to stay there because that is their preferred experience with the hobby. Like, look, I don't want to go to Sean's house or travel to Brett's basement. Yeah, it's cool that he's got a game room and all, but this is my office. I have my comfortable chair. I got my drinks. I got all my books and this great screen. Why would I have a suboptimal experience in Sean's basement?
I don't know, man. If Doc and everybody's like, hey, we're all vaccinated, we want to get back in person, I may be like, I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what
drive
happens.
over there, drive home. I got to grab something to eat. Hey, am I at home?
Oh, a beer.
Fire it up. Go to my fridge. Bring my beer over. Like, I mean, there's something to be said about the convenience of playing online.
I got a 15-minute drive through town. I better have a soda.
Or I got to leave work early, and then I got to, I got to take out my dogs. Oh, great. Anyways.
Interesting stuff.
So there we have it for this week. Thanks for everybody that's tuned in. What are we talking about next week, Brett?
We were talking about horror games a little bit ago. One of our listeners asked us about horror games and trying to keep horror in the game, humor, horror, that type of stuff. So we've talked about this a little bit in the past. I'm pretty sure we've had a topic or two around these lines. But after 6 years, almost 340 episodes, fuck it. Talk about it again. So there we go.
I'm looking forward to that one, Brett. Not that I didn't look forward to this one or the one prior, but...
That's okay. It's all right.
I'm
kind of bummed out about it.
Hey, Brett. It's not you, it's me.
Oh, God damn it.
Thanks, everybody that's joined us live on Twitch. You can catch us every Monday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, as long as Brett and I feel like it and are up for the task.
As long as he hasn't dumped me.
Otherwise, Saturdays I get on here and stream at 8 o'clock in the morning Central Time for a couple hours. If you like what you hear, go to your podcatcher of choice, find the audio version, and subscribe there. And then if you see this on YouTube, give us a like or subscribe. Otherwise, that's it from us. For Gaming and BS, I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.